What if the voice you call me is not who you really are, and the moment you truly see that, your entire reality begins to reorganize itself? Stay with that question for a few seconds. Don't rush past it, because if you've ever felt awake but still trapped, aware but somehow repeating the same emotional cycles, sensing that something deeper is happening beneath your life while the surface keeps looping, then this moment is not random. You didn't end up here by accident, and what you're about to hear may feel unsettling, not because it's wrong, but because it feels familiar in a way you were never taught to recognize. Most people grow up believing they are their thoughts, their memories, their personality, their habits, their story. That's how we're raised to function, especially in a world that values productivity, certainty, and control. But in quantum consciousness, those things are not the source of who you are. They are the interface, a survival model, a compression layer the brain uses to reduce uncertainty, predict outcomes, and keep the system stable inside a reality that feels solid, logical, and safe. The mind is incredibly good at one thing: keeping you alive. It was never designed to reveal the full truth of reality. And here's where the discomfort begins. That interface does not evolve forever. When it becomes outdated, it doesn't gently improve. It destabilizes. It collapses. It resets. And when that happens from the inside, it doesn't feel spiritual or peaceful. It feels like anxiety without a clear cause, restlessness you can't explain, a quiet dissatisfaction that follows you no matter how much you fix on the surface. Same fears, different faces. Same relationships, different names. Same pain, dressed in a new costume. You start wondering why nothing really changes, even when you try, even when you read the books, even when you work on yourself, even when you feel like you understand more than the people around you. And almost no one tells you this. That experience is not failure. It's not weakness. And it's not something broken in you. It's a signal from the quantum field itself, a pressure wave from a deeper layer of hidden reality responding to a shift in your vibration. In quantum mechanics, observation doesn't just measure reality, it participates in it. The observer effect shows that consciousness is not passive. It actively shapes how possibilities collapse into experience. And your subconscious mind, the part of you operating below language, logic, and conscious control, is constantly interacting with that field, broadcasting frequency through emotion, expectation, and perception long before your rational mind catches up. This is why spiritual awakening rarely feels calm at the beginning. It feels disorienting, lonely, sometimes even frightening, because what's dissolving isn't your life, it's your outdated identity. The version of you that was built to survive a lower frequency environment is being challenged by a higher one. And the subconscious mind resists this, not because it's bad or broken, but because it's efficient. It learned how to keep you safe, not how to let you see beyond the surface of reality. So when people ask, why does everything fall apart right before a breakthrough? They're touching the edge of a deeper truth. In quantum systems, order doesn't emerge from stability. It emerges from instability, from fluctuation, from the moment an old pattern can no longer maintain coherence. That's when a new configuration becomes possible. If you've been noticing synchronicities, repeating numbers, strange timing, emotional waves that appear out of nowhere, or a quiet pull toward deeper meaning, these are not fantasies. They are feedback loops from the hidden reality responding to changes in your internal state. Your frequency is shifting. Your vibration is no longer matching the story you've been living, and the field always responds to mismatch before the mind understands why. What makes this moment both dangerous and powerful is that most people numb these signals. They distract themselves. They label it stress. They suppress it. And in doing so, they reset the same loop again and again. But a few feel something different, a quiet knowing that behind the discomfort there is information, not motivation, not positivity. Information encoded directly into experience. And once you begin to see how the subconscious mind interfaces with the quantum field, how identity acts as a filter rather than a source, and how awakening is not about becoming someone new but remembering what was always there beneath the interface, you'll start to notice a subtle sign, almost invisible, that appears right before reality begins to shift in a way that cannot be reversed. Quick pause. One word only. How have you been feeling lately? Stuck, lost, numb, anxious, awakening? I read the first hundreds, and the most repeated words will shape the next video. And once you name how you've been feeling, something subtle already begins to shift. Because the moment awareness enters the system starts responding. And here is the revelation that often hurts the most to hear. Your brain was never designed to show you the truth of reality. It was designed to keep you alive. From an evolutionary perspective, accuracy is secondary to prediction. The brain constantly forecasts, building a model of the world and a model of you inside it, all to reduce surprise, minimize error, and conserve energy. In neuroscience, this is known as the predictive mind. In quantum consciousness, it's the interface between infinite possibility and limited perception. That interface is what most people call the ego. Not as an enemy, not as something to destroy, but as a tool, a map. And a map only works as long as it reflects the territory. When reality changes and the map stays the same, pressure builds. Anxiety appears without a clear cause. Old emotional reactions keep resurfacing. You feel trapped in a loop you can't reason your way out of. Same patterns, same outcomes, even as your circumstances shift. This isn't punishment. It's feedback from a hidden reality letting you know the model is outdated. As your vibration changes, the old structure starts losing coherence. The subconscious mind, designed for efficiency, tries to recycle familiar patterns because they feel predictable. But the quantum field doesn't respond to comfort. It responds to frequency. And when your frequency no longer matches the identity you've been operating from, a consciousness shift begins. That shift rarely feels calm at first. It feels like friction, like life tightening its grip, like something inside you asking to be seen instead of repeated. If this is landing, slow down and stay present. This channel exists as a space where perception can expand without force, where curiosity replaces fear. Engaging here isn't about numbers. A comment, a like, or choosing to subscribe is part of a shared energetic exchange, a way of strengthening a collective field of awareness. And what comes next builds directly on this understanding, because once you see that the you've been protecting is a model and not the source, the question is no longer why reality feels heavy, but what happens when that model finally begins to reset. When that model begins to reset, it often feels as if the universe itself is turning against you. But what's really happening is repetition, not punishment. You repeat what once hurt you, because the system is trying to gain mastery over what originally overwhelmed you. The subconscious mind does this automatically. It recreates familiar emotional environments not because they are healthy, but because they are known. From the inside, it feels like fate. From the outside, it looks like bad luck. From the level of quantum consciousness, it's a loop asking for awareness. Here is how the loop forms. An unresolved experience leaves an energetic imprint. That imprint becomes frequency. Frequency shapes perception. Perception filters reality. And reality mirrors that filter back to you through the quantum field. Same emotional tone, different situation, same wound, new relationship, same pressure, another role to play. You may call it destiny, but more often it is the subconscious mind running the same script, attempting to predict the outcome before it happens so it can feel safe. The hidden reality is that resistance strengthens the loop. The more you fight the pattern without seeing it, the more life amplifies it. Not out of cruelty, but precision. Reality increases the signal until perception changes. That increase can feel like loss, confusion, or exhaustion, but underneath it is information. The system is asking you to notice what you have been reliving instead of resolving. This is why spiritual awakening rarely feels comfortable. A consciousness shift destabilizes the familiar identity. Old coping strategies stop working. Old explanations lose their power, and the ego interprets this as danger when in truth it is expansion. Your energy is growing beyond the container it once needed to survive. In a moment, I'm going to give you a 10-second test. Just 2 questions. If you answer yes to both, you're not failing at life. You're in a reset. And if this description feels uncomfortably accurate, leave a quiet signal in the comments. Simply write, "I'm in the loop," not as a label, but as recognition. This channel exists to transform recognition into shared awareness. When you comment, like, or choose to subscribe, you're not just engaging with content, you're participating in a conscious exchange that strengthens a collective field of perception. And what comes next will show you how that loop begins to loosen the instant it is truly seen. Because right after awareness comes a subtle shift that most people overlook entirely. Because right after awareness comes a quieter layer most people never explore. Imagine for a moment that there is an invisible scanner moving through your life. It isn't judging you. It isn't rewarding or punishing you. It's simply observing how you respond. Every time you sense a signal, an intuition you dismiss, a discomfort you explain away, a truth you feel but avoid, the system doesn't escalate. It sends a small reset, subtle, almost polite. The same lesson returns wearing a different face, a new relationship with the same emotional gravity, another job that triggers the same inner tension, a different situation carrying the same energetic signature. This is the part that surprises most people. You don't need to change your entire life to exit the loop. You don't need to burn everything down or reinvent yourself. You need to change the observer, the way perception is organized, the way your consciousness is filtering the quantum field. Because reality is not responding to your words or intentions. It's responding to vibration, to frequency, to the emotional tone your subconscious mind broadcasts beneath awareness. This is what erasing the mind actually points to. Not destroying who you are, but dissolving false control. The identity that believes it must predict everything to feel safe. When that grip loosens, perception widens. And when perception widens, energy begins to move differently. Some research suggests that when identity relaxes, certain neural networks shift their patterns, altering the felt sense of me, not as a cure, not as magic, as a reorganization of experience. This is why awakening often feels subtle rather than dramatic. A consciousness shift doesn't announce itself. It feels like space, like less resistance, like the same world, but a different frequency running through it. And when that frequency changes, the quantum field mirrors it with precision. If this experiment is resonating, stay with it. Let it work quietly. And if you want me to turn this into a simple 7-minute guided practice you can experience directly in the next video, leave a comment that says, "Guide me." That kind of engagement isn't passive. It strengthens the shared field this channel exists to hold. And what comes next builds directly from here, because once you see how the scanner works, the real question becomes what happens when you stop triggering resets and begin choosing perception consciously. Because the real secret was never about becoming someone new. It was about stopping the habit of calling you something that was only an old program running on repetition. The mind clings to identity because identity feels like safety, and safety feels like survival. But survival is not truth. And when your consciousness begins to expand beyond the limits of that identity, the experience feels like breaking only because the structure can no longer contain what you've grown into. You are not collapsing because you are weak. You are destabilizing because your inner frequency has outgrown the version of you that was built to predict, control, and endure. This is what a genuine consciousness shift feels like from the inside. Not fireworks, not instant peace. It's quieter than that. A subtle release. Less urgency to defend your story. Less attachment to old explanations. A strange calm mixed with uncertainty, where the world looks the same, yet your perception is unmistakably different. And perception is everything. When the ego softens, the quantum field doesn't suddenly turn against you or in your favor. It becomes clear. The hidden reality that once felt hostile starts to feel legible. Patterns stop feeling personal and start feeling informative. From that clarity, something unexpected emerges. Synchronicity. Not as superstition, not as wishful thinking, but as alignment. Moments that arrive with precise timing. Conversations that surface exactly when you're ready to hear them. Information crossing your path with an almost unsettling accuracy. These are not rewards. They are indicators. Signals that your vibration and perception are no longer fighting each other. When frequency stabilizes, the field responds with feedback instead of friction. This is why spiritual awakening is not about escaping life, but about seeing it without distortion. The subconscious mind begins to loosen its defensive loops, and the energy once trapped in repetition becomes available for awareness. You start to feel guided without being controlled, curious without being lost. Even uncertainty takes on a different texture, less threatening, more spacious. This is expansion of consciousness in its most grounded form. There's an ethical line here that matters. No one can force this process. No video, no teacher, no concept can do the work for you. This space exists only to reflect, to offer language where there was confusion, and to create resonance where there was isolation. If something here is landing, It's because a part of you was already ready to see. That readiness doesn't announce itself loudly. It feels like recognition, like remembering something you didn't know you forgot. In the next video, we'll move deeper into this clarity. I'll show you why nothing is a coincidence, how the universe communicates through signs, and the specific signals most people overlook until the moment has passed. For now, stay with what you're noticing. If this video described your inner experience, leave a trace in the comments. You can write, "I awaken," "I see beyond," or "I'm expanding." Or if you're ready, share in one sentence the pattern you feel yourself repeating. And if this resonates, subscribe, because this is not a standalone idea, it's a sequence, loop, reset, signs. And sometimes, sharing this with someone you love is the interruption that changes everything. If you made it this far, you already know. This wasn't entertainment, it was a mirror. Now I want to read you. Comment the word that hit you the hardest today: reset, loop, break, or awakening. And subscribe, because the next video is the missing piece. Nothing is a coincidence. The signs the universe uses to guide you. You won't just watch it, you'll recognize yourself.